In December 2007, police were hunting for a killer in suburbia. Their prime suspect was the victim's ex-husband George, but CCTV proved he'd been Christmas shopping when Sharon was murdered. The senior investigator DCI Maria Woodall studied the footage. She wasn't convinced by what at first seemed to be a watertight alibi.
What strikes you about how he appears in these shots?
Well, for somebody looking at him just amongst the people, you wouldn't think anything unusual of it at all, but to me, he's making sure that we'll be able to see him.
What would you expect to see on the CCTV?
Well, I'd expect to see a lot different than that. I would expect to see somebody buying things. You know, this is coming up to Christmas time, but he doesn't actually buy anything. He's giving himself an alibi for the time that she was actually being murdered.
You then go off a different angle. You've got to look at a different angle. At that time when I felt that there's got to be somebody else involved, it's more than one.
Police now wanted to know who George had been in contact with around the time Sharon was murdered. They asked him for his mobile phone.
Right, so you use that Motorola for incoming calls?
That is basically my mobile phone. And it's used for incoming and outgoing calls.
George was a witness, so I would expect him to tell us as much information as possible. He knew the purpose of us looking at his phone, and that purpose was to firm up his alibi.
George was happy enough to talk through his call history, unaware he was wandering into a trap.
We did extensive work around who was calling him. I noticed that there were a significant amount of calls from a number that George hadn't previously told us about and you know, who that person actually was. For us, that was a big red flag. You've got no phone calls from this number, rapid and frequent activity just before her murder, and then nothing after.
But detectives were careful not to alert him to their suspicions and kept the tone friendly and informal.
Can we just clarify, first of all, your phone book? Who's on your phone book?
You mean the contacts in this phone?
Yes.
What were your tactics when it came to asking George about this unusual phone activity?
During this interview, we asked him about a number of telephone numbers that appeared on his records, and we sort of filtered in the one that we were interested in. We wouldn't go straight to that number, we'd build up to it, which is what we did.
8160.
That's actually Sharon.
And why did you do that?
Because if we went straight to the number, that would put him straight on the guard, that he would know that we know something about his particular number.
Police took their time before they finally introduced the suspicious phone number.
56049.
Right, recently I've had two friends here from Thailand.
Okay.
It'd be one of those.
So who are the friends from Thailand?
One's called Paul.
Paul, and what's his other name?
I don't know. He's actually a friend of a friend, really, isn't he?
And is he Thai or is he English?
He's English.
He's English.
Our tactics of being friendly, open and honest started to pay off, because he's now given us a name. He's given us a country. He's given us something else to go on.
And how long did he stay?
2 weeks, 10 days.
And where did he stay?
He stayed in London, he stayed with me, he stayed...
Whereabouts would he stay with you?
Well, my mother's.
Drawn in by the police, George readily admitted that someone was staying with him around the time of Sharon's murder, a detail he'd failed to mention in hours of previous interviews. He also casually revealed he'd taken Paul to visit Sharon at home, just days before her death.